Hello, welcome to Lesson 4 in the series of No Stress, No Pressure, No Free Motion Quilting. Now, I just want to review a few things that we've gone over in Lesson 1, 2 and 3, and Joey did a really good job in Lesson 3. She's a newbie quilter, so just wanted to bring her on to allow her to learn the quilting process that I use and also to help her gain confidence. And in turn, hopefully you'll gain confidence that you can quilt like this just as easy as what I can. There's nothing hard about it because all you're doing is sewing on a line. It's the new way to quilt. Now, I just wanted to show you that this design I've got here on the table is how we're going to interact some of our designs together to give you secondary patterns appearing. So, looking at this one that I have laid out in front of me, I've used two of my templates to create this design. I used the heart template, which I love this template. And remember, you can use these for applique as well as for quilting. So I've used this heart here and we've traced hearts on, just randomly, traced hearts on. And then I came back and I used the star template, this gorgeous one, and filled in around the heart, but I didn't use the whole shape. I just used from here to here and drew that section down to meet up with the heart. And then see how now we've got a secondary design starting to appear here? So it just is fun to sit and play with your designs, with your templates, and see what you can come up with. And then you find that direct line of sewing that you can sew to fill in the whole shape. Remember, you don't have to do each individual shape, because if we did that, there'd be too much starting and stopping and connecting threads and all sorts of things. So don't go down the difficult path, find the easy path to follow. Now, the other thing that I wanted you to be aware of, with the templates, it can be a little bit challenging for you to come up with your own designs. So I invite you to go to our website, which is www.pqw.com.au. Put in the search button, Quilt As You Go Quilting Templates. That page will open up for you, and on that page you will see there is free downloadable patterns, which I have in front of me here. So for each set of templates that we have, we've got free downloadable patterns. So just to show you some of them, this is for set A, and you can see some of the gorgeous designs we've drawn up using the set A. And we go through and we have all of the different sets for you. Set B, interacting different designs together. Set C, this is a gorgeous clamshell and circles that, you know, like they're straight lines. There's nothing hard about quilting, but look at the amazing design you can create just using those straight lines. This is your heart templates. You can do borders, you can do sashings, you can fill in a block, and then we come to the gorgeous star. So here we've got the hearts and the stars that I've just introduced you to. So download these off our website and then you're ready to really go and do some beautiful quilting. So now we're going to cover feathers. Gets to the exciting part of the class. So I'll introduce you, if you don't already know, about our feather template pack. So in here you've got the booklet, which gives you lots of instructions. So that's in the pack. You get 3 separate templates, and then I'm going to show you how to transfer your designs onto your fabric and then how to start quilting your feathers. So we have the 3 different templates. Now I've put 3 different templates in the pack because feathers are all different shapes. Sometimes we want skinny, elongated feathers, sometimes we want fatter, rounder feathers. So that's why we've put the 3 different shapes in. I'm going to use this one and we'll introduce you to the little booklet. Now in the booklet you'll see some of the designs we've drawn up. Okay, so just to give you some examples of what you could draw up yourself just using the shapes that we've used. So use this little booklet to your advantage. And then what we're going to do to start with is most feathers have a spine of some kind. or I call it a spine. So this little curve here. So that can be drawn any shape you want. And then we're going to draw the feathers shapes connecting to that spine. Now, this is another prime example of what I was explaining in lesson 2 and 3 about stitching over a previous line of stitching. So you can see I have stitched over here quite some amount of times, but what it's done, it's really enhanced that spine and made it stand out. And I think it just gives a nice charm to the design. So this one here, what I've done is I've used this big section and traced that on. Oops, it was this one I used. Trace that on. Now, I'll show you how we trace it on. But when I stitched around this original line that I'd drawn on there, I felt it wasn't finished. So I came back, and on my machine, I've moved my needle position over and then used the side of the foot as a guide so I could accurately echo around here. You know, start using the features on your machine and it'll make your quilting just come alive. This one here, once again, I've drawn a couple of different shapes. This one I only wanted the feathers coming out on one side. I didn't want to fill it right in. And it's just to show you that any of the shapes interact together. But to stitch this out, we set the machine up exactly the same as we've done in lesson 2 and 3. No pressure, little pressure on the fabric, no stress on you, no free motion quilting. You'll be able to quilt feathers perfectly the first time you try them. So, so simple. So now what we're going to do is start drawing on here. So the first thing we'll do is draw a spine. Just whatever you want there. Just go over that so it's a bit darker for you to be able to see. Oops, ran off the line. But the nice thing is I can go back and erase that out and redraw using that pencil. Now we'll use our shape. Now I like to put this point here against the spine. I'm just going to do some smaller ones. So I put that against the spine and we just hold the template and with our marking pencil draw around. Okay, there's our first section. Then we can come back and we can manipulate this, put this point here against the previous design that we've got drawn. Draw around and it comes back and connects. And see how simple it is to connect together? This is not connecting here, so I'll erase that out. Now my stitching line would be here. So if I wanted to stitch this, I could stitch up and around and then I could stitch back over this line and do this next one. Or I could do, which I explained to you before, I could move my needle over and I could come back here and connect so that we have a gap between the two rows of stitching. So you just keep going, filling in your design. There's nothing hard about it. And you'll find every time you draw your feathers, you'll get a different design. And that's what makes feathers really, really exciting. You can really have fun and just sit and draw up. And remember, if you're using this marking pencil that I use, if you make a mistake, you just come back and you erase the line out and start again. So I just keep drawing all of those up till I got all of these designs done. So you can see what I've done here. I've drawn 2 lines. Now to get these circles, I used our circle set. I used the 1-inch circle from our nested circle set, which you may know about. If not, have a look at our website and have a look at the videos on our YouTube channel to show you how to use those. But I'm not going to stitch this circle. That is too hard. So stitching these circles, I would start somewhere here and I would swing in and out, coming in and out of these circles. Then when I get down to the other side, I come back the opposite way. just crossing over at this point. So just so slowly. Now doing these circles, you may have to reduce your stitch length down a little bit from 2.85, which I use, because you don't want too large a stitch coming around these circles. So I probably reduce it back down to about 2.5. And then when I come back and start doing the feather shapes, I'll go back up to 2.85. So this is just a couple I've drawn up to show you how simple it is and what a lovely design you get. So now I'm going to go to the sewing machine and start stitching these for you, just to give you a few little hints and tips on how to manoeuvre this and how to stitch back over a line and how to move your needle position so that you could have the gap happening in between these two. So we've got the machine set up as we have before. We've got the sew slip mat on. I've still got the pressure released off the foot. Got my stitch length at 2.85. I don't need to draw my bobbin thread up to start here because I'm going to start right on the edge. So once again, I'm not going to hold my hands up close. I make sure my needle's in the down position, so every time I stop, my needle's going to be in the down position. I'm going to then just make sure my left foot's on the pedal, sit with a straight back, hold your fabric from the front, don't lean over your machine, and then we're just going to simply stitch on the line. So now I could travel all the way up the spine to start with. There's nothing hard about that. And I would suggest you do that because that'll help you gain the confidence and start to learn the shape that you're going to be stitching out. So now I'm getting up to the top. So I'm just going to go a bit slower and I'm just going to pivot this around. I find coming around these curves, it's easier just to use my left hand and let it just pivot around that curve. So that's how simple it is. Now I'm going to come back in, around, come down the spine. Now I'm coming back onto a single spine. I'm not doing the double row of stitching here for a little while, so I'm going to stitch right back on that previous row of stitching. Then I break into a double spine again. Now when I get down to the end here, I am going to lift the pressure foot off the fabric, put my needle down. I'm going to travel back up that spine a little way and I'm going to fill in this first part of the feather. Just manoeuvre this around a bit. So just go steady around those curves. And like it might take me about half an hour to draw the design on and another 20 minutes or so to stitch this shape. But when I finish, I know I'm going to have a beautiful, beautiful pattern. So now I'm going to lift the pressure foot again because I'm right back to a very hard pivot point. I'm going to stitch up the spine again. Now I want to echo. I want to not stitch back over that line. So what I'm going to do is start stitching up the spine. Now what I've done is I've got my edge of my foot, the inside edge of my foot, just pointed out with my scissors, this inside edge of the foot is back on this previous stitching line. Now I'm just going to move my needle position over a little bit so that I'm now going to echo out about 1/8 of an inch out from that previous line that I've stitched. So when I sew this now, I'm not going to watch the needle any longer, I'm going to watch the inside edge of that foot. And I'm just going to slowly stitch up there. I'm now going to work my way in so I come back right onto that previous stitching line. Right, then I'll come around and do the next little part. Come back around. Now stop, and I'm going to have to lift the pressure foot again, swing it around. Now on some machines you can adjust that pressure, the pivot point on your machine, so when you stop it automatically lifts off the fabric. If you've got that feature on your machine, it's fabulous. Look it up in your manual. Now I want to now come out 1/8 of an inch again. So I'm using the side of the foot on the previous stitching line. Run back into that and then around the next one. So that's how very, very simple it is to stitch your feathers. There's nothing hard about it at all. Come down to your spine, lift the pressure foot, pivot around, back down. Use the side of your foot as your guide. And once we start to get people using the lovely features that most of us have on our machine, which a lot of us don't use, and I was one of those people. I just brought my machine and I did straight sewing with it until I taught myself how to free motion quilt. And then I got over free motion quilting and decided to quilt like this. Now, just another little feature that we can do on our feathers to make it a little bit more interesting. I'll just stitch this one around. I'm just going to come back down here to some of the ones that I've already done. Stitch over the line again. I'm going to stop and once again lift the foot and pivot around. I'm going to put some lines of stitching up the middle of this feather. You know, you might prefer to draw these lines. I usually just eyeball it. So I've done a line of stitching up through there. I'm going to lift the pressure foot, pivot around and do this. So that adds another feature to your feathers. Now I've got my machine set up with a knee lift. I've got a device on my machine that I've got this lovely arm that comes out that I can lift the pressure foot by adjusting that with pushing the lever with my knee. And that's another great feature about when you sew with your left foot. It keeps your right leg free to use your knee lift. So I'm going to use the knee lift, which is a fabulous feature. And there's a few reasons why I invested in this machine. It was simply to be able to give me the devices that I like and I needed to make my quilting a lot easier. But if you don't have these features on your machines and you're not willing or not needing to upgrade, look at your manual. Learn about what your machine can do to make life really easy for you. And it's very exciting. Lift, come back. So as I say, there's no real rules. You've just got to find a way to make it easy for you. Now I'm just going to sew across the bottom here and come back up and do some other sections on the other side. Going to come back up towards the top. And you can see I'm stitching over the lines many times, but what it's going to do is really enhance the design for me. So now we're going to come around this one. And I just a lot of times just keep my fabric rolled up. Now this could be a much bigger piece that you're working on. It could be a centre medallion, but you'd still be able to move that bigger piece of fabric under the needle. Just keep it all rolled up. You can see how it just pivots around there nicely for you. So when I get back down to this, that centre line, I'm going to lift the pressure foot. Now this time I'm going to stitch straight back over that line. And when I'm stitching over a line, I usually go a little bit slower so that I can stitch right on the line.
20 minutes.
And there we go, we're getting to that. So that's just about getting you really started onto feathers. Take your time, enjoy the journey, no stress, no pressure, no free motion quilting. So I hope you've really enjoyed the lesson and that you've learnt a lot. Have a look at our website. Have a look at all the different wonderful templates we've got. We're designing more and more all the time for you. And remember, they can be used for quilting, for hand quilting, machine quilting, free motion quilting, or they can be used for applique. So thank you for joining in our lessons in this series. Keep watching. Watch it over and over again. Learn as much as you can and practice as much as you can. So till we meet again next time, bye for now.